The new year is all about starting fresh and with a clean slate. How about this be the year you finally put down cigarettes completely? With Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City, you can do just that. You know you've quit at the end of every cigarette, so let Wild Vapors show you how with vaping. Owners Eddie and Shelley were former smokers themselves. They started Wild Vapors because they knew they wanted to help others lay down cigarettes as well, with their own special brand formula that will help you gradually reduce your nicotine intake to eventually none at all. Their signature formula is mixed in an off-site cleanroom facility with using only the highest quality USP ingredients and leaving out artificial sweeteners and other unnecessary chemicals. Eddie and Shelley have your solution to finally laying down cigarettes. Join the 1,000 others who have found the freedom from smoking with Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Give them a call at 256-369-2569 or stop by one of their 2 locations in Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Drivers and Danica, start your engine!
Pull those belts down tight. One more time. Warm up those tires. Hit your marks and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, and Formula E racing talk. This is the fastest hour in radio.
He's going to do it. He's going to win the race and the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. California's Kevin Harvick does it. Holy cow! Chase Elliott is going to become the NASCAR Nationwide Series champion for 2014. Are you kidding me? Yes!
For the second year in a row, Matt Crafton is the Camping World Truck Series champion.
3 times he has been denied an IndyCar championship. Well, not anymore. Will Power is an IndyCar champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, our 2014 FIA Formula One World Champion, Lewis Hamilton.
Here's your host, Steve West and Justin Harmer.
Well, good morning to you, and hope everything is going well on the first official weekend of 2016. Welcome to January 2nd. Talking with John behind the scenes. Had the chance to watch what was supposed to be a game the other night. Well, and here's the thing. Both of the semifinals were exactly that way. I know that we're not a football show, and I'm going to say hello to Dustin here as well, and a Happy New Year to both John and Dustin. And just real quick in talking about this, for the first half, the Clemson-Oklahoma game was a game. And then in the second half, it was done. We didn't even make it to the halftime before it was effectively over between Alabama and Michigan State. So this ought to be a fairly interesting matchup come January the 11th when Alabama and Clemson face off against each other.
Yeah, Mitch State never showed up for the game.
Yeah, apparently they never made the trip south to Dallas. They just kind of made it only halfway and then threw a bunch of people in their uniforms and said, yeah, you go the rest of the way.
That's exactly what they got. They got what they wanted. There are so many descriptive words I could use to describe the picking system for the playoffs this year, but that is not the way that the playoffs should have been set up this year. It should have been I think the better games would have been Alabama, Oklahoma, and then Clemson and Michigan State. Maybe Michigan State could have actually done something against Clemson, but yeah, good luck to Clemson, who aren't going to score anything against Alabama.
It'll be interesting to see, because if there's one thing in Clemson's favor at this point in time, is they've got that real mobile quarterback that has always seemed to give Alabama fits here over the last 2 or 3 years. This year they seem to have more speed on defense than what they've had in the past, so that may help blunt that some, but I think this is the one matchup that might give Alabama nightmares. And I am a Crimson Tide fan, so I'm going to be the first person to say I'm a little worried about Clemson. By halftime, we should know the end of the story, but I'm a little worried.
You're not worried about Clemson. There is not any Crimson Tide fan down there in the entire great state of Alabama, which I miss desperately right now.
We'll get to that in a second, by the way.
Thinking about Clemson having any issue against them.
If you overlook Clemson, I think you're overlooking something here. I really do. Again, it's that offense that tends to give Alabama problems. I don't know about the defense, truth be told. There's a part of me that wants to say that defense can be run on, and if you can get Derrick Henry starting to go north-south as opposed to east-west, I think you can really make something of it and keep their offense off the field.
I feel your pain when we come to overlooking an opponent. I don't know, the way my Seminoles overlooked Houston. That was a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't look good. All right, so with that said, you've been up in Maryland the past couple of weeks. You're ready to head south here tomorrow?
Yes, heading out 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and I couldn't be any more ready than I am right now because Mother Nature, she's got jokes today.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's been, warm, exceptionally warm up here in Maryland. I packed for winter, that thing called winter, and it never showed up. But today, of all days, where I get to go outside because that's the best way for me to catch a signal to join you for the show.
Because he's way out in the middle of nowhere
right now. Yeah, right out in the middle of Bumble, and I'm in my Jeep, and lo and behold, winter has arrived. It's 23 degrees, and I get to pack the Jeep today. Oh, goody!
It's even colder in Maryland than it is down here, and I thought we were cold.
Yeah, it's cold up here for once.
According to what I've got here, I'm looking at 34, so we've got 11 degrees on him.
Can I have that, please? I'll take that for $200, Alex.
You got about a 12-hour trip. Come on down.
Yeah. We'll be leaving out tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Should put us in sometime tomorrow night, and it should be extremely exciting. I want to see if I can beat my lap time of 13 hours and 56 minutes on my way up.
Avoid the boys in blue.
No problem.
All right, let's get into this. And it's kind of strange in the fact that, number one, we're on our second of 2 holiday weekends in a row, which means that we are doing a 2-hour show here. And we are live on Saturday mornings, so feel free, give us a call, 941-1011, toll-free 866-551-9933, or be a part of things on Facebook. I do have the Facebook page up. I was roaming around, and I'll go ahead and say this, just as a follow-up to what we just talked about in the Entertainment Roundtable. One of the trending stories on Facebook is how Star Wars The Force Awakens is doing in movie theaters.
Yeah.
I haven't followed that. How is it doing?
It's doing pretty good.
It's still good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a pretty decent performer for the year. It is the number one. It will be the number one film of the year after this weekend. You think about it. The entire run of Jurassic World netted at $652.2 million in the United States alone. This becomes the third weekend of release for Star Wars The Force Awakens as of New Year's Eve, $651.9 million. So it's already broken Jurassic World and well on its way to going past Titanic at $658.6.
And we expected anything less?
No, I didn't expect anything less. The next hurdle is the number one film domestically of all time, $760.5 million for Avatar. Depending on how it performs this weekend, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It could be the number one film of all time in the United States by Sunday night at midnight.
Well, I will say this. You and I went to see it a couple weeks ago. I would not mind going to see it again.
I can't wait to go see it again.
And that'll make it, your third or fourth time?
7 times?
No, I've seen it twice already. Okay. I have scheduled a third time, which will be on my wife's birthday and my mother's birthday, which happens to be on the same day. It's strange how I ended up marrying a woman whose birthday was the same exact day as my mom's. And
you marry your wife? You marry your mother?
No, I did not. I do not have an Oedipus complex. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's just a coincidence that they both happen to have been born on January 25th of different years. And we've got friends coming up from Pensacola, Florida. And those friends, that couple, the wife is within a couple of days of having that birthday. My mom wants to go see it. Both of them want to go see Star Wars. And my wife, who never really watches a movie twice in the movie theater, is actually willing to go see it again in the movie theater. So that'll be 3. And Jeff Myers and I, as we talked about last hour, are thinking about trying to go down to the McQueen Center, which is showing it on the big 3-story wraparound IMAX screen.
Ooh.
So that'd be 4. Yeah.
I would love to go see it that way, too.
It's to me, it's one of the better, and I've been watching people, a good friend of ours, Robert, had a person claim that bad acting, bad casting, bad writing, and I'm like, dude, what the heck movie were you watching?
He probably watched some spin-off, some Star Wars geek one online or something that they made.
Yeah, I guess. Well, either way, getting back to the point of being on Facebook is the fact that I am on Facebook, so if you feel like getting in contact with us, feel free. Facebook.com/TheFastestHour in radio, plus the other ways that they can get in contact with us on social media, Dustin.
That's right. You can find us on Twitter @FastestHour. as well as Instagram at Fastest Hour, news, photos, the whole 9 yards, drivers in studio. Just got a chance to finally caught up. I posted a couple pictures up. Well, Jay Schiller in studio with us 2 weeks ago. Just a couple weeks before that, the Spurlocks joining us in studio, so got a chance to get them photos up. Always great to share the photos and get them out there. So make sure you find us on Instagram as well at Fastest Hour.
A lot of pictures that we're planning on taking next weekend because we plan on being out and about at what may literally turn into be the Ice Bowl.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I cannot wait to get out there and support Talladega Short Track. I know we're getting ready to talk about it here in a moment, but just getting out there and getting back to what we call normal in the race world and, tragedies, of course, and the ability for us to come together as a family and still get out there and get some motors running.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll start with our local area with our good friends at the Talladega Short Track. In case you hadn't heard, and you probably didn't, because with everything going on with Auburn being in the Birmingham Bowl and Alabama playing in the National Football Semifinal, not one single Birmingham television station covered this. And I called each one of them out when I sent them messages on Facebook.
Are you serious?
Not a single one of them covered the fact that there was a fire at Talladega Short Track that destroyed the tower at Talladega Short Track and the concession stand at the same time, because the concession stand was actually, if you've never been out there, it was on the base level of what was going to be the tower. So you had the concession stand at the bottom and then two tiers. One was kind of a guest area, if you will, or a luxury box, if you want to term it that way. It was a place for, VIPs to go and sit. And then you go to the top level, and that's where scoring and the PA booth and, all the other kind of stuff was up on the third level. Unfortunately, the fire took down every single part of that particular tower. And you and I and John, we've all three had the chance to be in that tower on a number of occasions. And as you just roam around inside that tower and you look on the walls, granted, we didn't do that in the concession stand area, but the top two levels of that, there were pictures and mementos all over the place.
Lots of history.
Yeah.
The equipment, the chairs, the windows, all that kind of stuff, that's just stuff. That's easily replaceable. The pictures, all the memories that Talladega Short Track had built up over the course of time, and they put in frames and they put them up on the walls. That's the big loss here, quite frankly, is you lose all of those memories of all of the people that have ever raced at Talladega Short Track. And I'm here to tell you, there is a veritable who's who, Dustin.
Yeah, that was my first thought. I mean, when I initially saw the story, I think I hit you up and I said, "Did you see this?" Because I was trying to establish if it was just something dumb going on or whatever the case was. I couldn't really tell because, of course, nowadays a lot of things are blown out of proportion. It could have been a trash can fire out back and somebody saw something they thought. And then when I actually saw that it was a viable story that the tower was in flames and burnt down, and the first thought I had wasn't to anything else except for the fact of, was anybody hurt? Is everybody okay? And oh my gosh, the memories that just disappeared forever.
Yeah, exactly. At this time, about how the fire started, information about that, very sketchy. We here on this show, it's not our job. We're not going to speculate. There was concern about the upcoming Ice Bowl to be held at the facility, again, coming up later on, 1 week from today, officially, is when the Ice Bowl itself will happen, and they'll be doing races leading up to it in the couple of nights before. According to both Lynn Phillips and the track's Facebook page, the race is still on. While Phillips states that everything within the building is gone, plans are already being put in place to ensure the race will happen with little to no inconvenience to either fans or racers. You have heard some speculation that they may use the old tower, but you're not 100% on that, Dustin?
Yeah, I can't confirm. I did have someone tell me that the tower over there coming out of turn 4 to that front stretch right there in the corner, that was the previous tower that was used. So there is a possibility that is what they're going to use for the Ice Bowl this coming weekend. So I'm sure that they are going full tilt, making sure they're working around the clock to get the systems up and running, the scoring, to make sure that when Neesmith comes in, since it's a Neesmith sanctioned event, that since they're going to be covering it scoring-wise in the tower, that they're going to be working from that location, as well as probably our good friend Late Mama Mark being up there doing his thing in the PA tower itself. That's what I'm hearing, unconfirmed. I just don't want to say, yes, that's what's going to happen unless they come up with something else. But As of right now, that looks like the best option for them. It's there. It's been used before, so I think some minor moving, some getting stuff situated, and I think they'll be right back in business over there for the time being.
Yeah. Looking forward to hearing from it, and hopefully he had contacted me earlier on this week. Unfortunately, I'd missed his call, and we haven't been able to reach each other since then, but he said that he was going to be calling in this weekend and, of course, talking about late model Mark. So hopefully we'll find out more information as soon as he gets on the phone, and we'll find out more. But either way, according to everything that we're hearing, Ice Bowl for next weekend is still on, despite the fact that they suffered that fire over at Talladega Short Track. So our thoughts and our prayers out to our friends over there, no doubt, and we know that everything will come back, and we're looking forward to another great season of racing out there at TSS.
We're looking forward to being out there next weekend.
Absolutely.
Support them, too. We're going to be there, so that's going to, like I said, before we started talking about it, that's one of the main things about, racing is tragedies happen, but we come together as a family. All the racers I've seen been posting online, talking to a couple of them and everything else, and just seeing the positive vibes has been that thing for Talladega Short Track right now. So I just can't wait to get out to support them next weekend. I highly suggest everybody out there listening to us do it as well. 7th through the 10th, we'll hear more about it.
Yeah, these are going to be the people that in coming years you'll be hearing their names as they move up through the ranks, so it's definitely worth coming out and checking out. And again, I'm going to call them out one more time. Local media, where the heck were you?
Yeah, that's pretty pathetic.
I mean, I've gone through ESPN.com, didn't cover it, but as I look through FoxSports.com, where we get some of our stuff from, where we cull some of the information, they had it covered. Let me see, who else had it covered here? Let me go over some of the lists.
It's pretty bad when your national media covers it, but your local media drops the ball. That's just, I'm going to straight up call that pathetic.
Auto Week Racing, they covered it. J-Skis, which is a subsidiary of ESPN. So I guess in some ways we could say ESPN.com did cover it because their subsidiary J-Skis covered it. But yet the Birmingham local media didn't touch it. And
I think I saw it on the Bleacher Report too. So I mean, they were on top of it as well.
It drives me nuts. As much of an Alabama fan, and quite frankly, as much of a college football fan as I am, for them to have only in sports talked about Alabama and Auburn college football bowl games, drives me absolutely batty.
I know, it was only the Birmingham Bowl for Auburn. It's not like they were traveling halfway across the United States or anything like that.
If you want to cover the bowl, cover the bowl. But realize there's more than just 2 college football games going on in the world of sports.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that, that's what's wrong with news outlets today is, they forget about, especially the ones that are local, sometimes they tend to forget about that local flavor when something huge is going on, like, we have to cover this. I don't care what's going on. We have to cover this. But that's the thing. You got to cover everything. If you want to be a viable news source, you got to cover it all. If you don't, then you're not a viable news source, especially in your local community. And that's going to hurt later on, especially with people that have been devoted to local stations. And for them not to cover something like this, that's going to hurt them down the road.
Yeah.
And that's just me saying it. So if they don't like me saying it, hey, my name's Dustin Harmer. Come find me.
Yeah. Hey, same thing. We're up here at this radio station each and every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. now because this is our brand new start time every single week. So whether you are the sports director at Channel 6, Channel 13, Channel 42, or Channel 3340, we're here at 7 o'clock each and every Saturday morning live. Come talk to us. Be more than happy to chat about it. On to other racing news. We start off with not a whole lot, but some NASCAR news possible. And here's the weird thing that Front Row Motorsports, which seemed to have started to solidify things last year, Dustin, maybe consolidating their operations a little bit. Here on the show last week, we mentioned that 2015 Xfinity Series champion Chris Buescher, stepping up to the Sprint Cup Series, going to take the wheel of the number 34 Ford Fusion next season. It left 2 other cars, the 35 and the 38, from the 2014 season, or so we thought. Front Row Motorsports website actually no longer lists the 35 among their cars, and they've actually dropped both Cole Witt and David Gilliland from the list of the drivers that they have signed. Gilliland recently put up on his Twitter account, quote, "Not really sure what's going to happen next year. Front Row has been great to me. I wish them nothing but the best," unquote. Cole Witt, meanwhile, has been absolutely quiet since the 2015 season ended, so we don't know what his plans are. So there you go. There's Front Row Motorsports. When we thought we were starting to see us having kind of turned a corner in NASCAR, suddenly Front Row Motorsports is going, maybe 2 cars, maybe only 1 car, because at this point in time, the only one that we know for certain is the 34.
Well, if you look at the seasons for Front Row, they haven't been stellar. There really hasn't been a lot of growth. I mean, granted, they did get the win at Talladega Superspeedway. That's one thing. But the fact of the matter is, and this is not anything against David Gilliland. I mean, he's a great guy. He was there helping David Reagan go to the win, the whole 9 yards. But they've got to think of something, and this is probably something that was in the works. That if stuff wasn't going away, this is one of their contingency plans right now. They're probably just going to circle the wagons, reevaluate what they need to do, and then push forward. And this is just one of those things. Sometimes to have some growth, you gotta stop and look at what they're doing first before they can move forward. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of right now for Front Row. I mean, I wish them all the best too. But Cole Witt, we talked about him a lot. He seemed like he was going to be one of these up and coming type drivers, and now for him not to have a ride, that's a potential possibility for somebody to grab somebody with a caliber such as his and grab him and bring him into the fold if that's the case.
Yeah, and it appears anyway to be that. Front Row Motorsports has said that they're going to have every intention on being a major part of the 2016 season. But again, the only thing that we know right now is that the number 34 is locked in. Congratulations go out to the son of Matt Kenseth. Ross Kenseth made his NASCAR debut last June in the Xfinity Series at the Chicagoland Speedway race. He popped a question to his girlfriend, Amber Odom, while the pair were in the Bahamas. Nice place to pop the question.
Must be nice.
Yeah, no wedding date was announced, but hey, they are betrothed, so we'll find out soon enough. Also, congratulations going out to Johanna Long, recently at the Snowball Derby at Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida, announced that she and longtime boyfriend Hunter Robbins, who is a Montgomery, Alabama native, they are engaged. While waiting for the unannounced wedding date to arrive, said she got to talking to her hometown newspaper, Pensacola News-Journal, said that she was keeping in shape. She was looking for a NASCAR ride for 2016. It had appeared that she had a deal with Mike Afferrano for a ride in select Xfinity and Camping World Truck Series races last year, 2015, but those plans fell through before the season even started. So while looking forward to being able to get another chance, she was asked by the newspaper what she might do should no one from NASCAR call. She said, quote, "If I never get another opportunity, I have driven in NASCAR for 4 years and accomplished what I have dreamed of doing since I started in go-karts. If I never get the chance to race again in NASCAR, no one can take away from me what I have done." She's 23 years old, so she's still got a pretty good long career in front of her. We have seen her race, and she hasn't lit the screen up, but I think part of that is the fact, Dustin, that she hasn't really had even mid-range equipment, much less top-of-the-line equipment. She has been with teams that are kind of backmarkers, and therefore the equipment shows that. I think Johanna Long is a heck of a lot more talented than what we have seen her be able to do in NASCAR, mainly because she is being held back by the equipment.
Yeah, Steve, I couldn't agree more. It's one of those things where we talk about it a lot with these, the second and third type tier teams that don't really have a lot of funding. I'll just put it like this: it's wasted talent. She's got something. It's there. She just needs the right equipment. And I think that she could really do exceptionally well. She's very patient. She's very cool, calm, collected on the track. We've seen that. She's gotten a little bit of, she's got the temper flared up a couple of times. But all in all, she does what she needs to do, and she does what she can with what she's got. So I'm just going to use 2 words: wasted talent.
I'd like to see her jump into Patrick's car.
At least she could probably put it in the top 10, maybe even contend for a win for real.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think she would be more consistently top 20 than Danica Patrick has been, because again, we have seen her be able to do some things in some of these cars or trucks, quite frankly, and I sit there and marvel to some extent over her ability to take what we know is, quite frankly, a third tier at best truck or Xfinity Series car, and at least place a top 30 with it. I can only imagine if she got the opportunity with even, again, a middling team. And I say middling, and I look, strangely enough, at a Roush Fenway Racing, which really fell flat on their faces last year, despite the fact that Chris Buescher won the Xfinity Series championship. If she had been in the quality of car that a Chris Buescher had been in, I really honestly think we could be talking about her top 15, top 10 in points at the end of the season.
Oh, very easy. I mean, she like I said, she's got something. Just the right team needs to come along. But Heck, my 11-year-old could do better than Patrick in a car, but that's just for another day anyway. So
when does he turn 12, by the way?
March.
Okay, just wanted to ask. Two other notes, I should say, in NASCAR. Camping World Truck Series operation NTS Motorsports. They're going through some rough times, and to me, this started. Let's see, when did they let go of Ron Hornaday Jr.? That was the beginning of late in 2014 season, correct?
Yes, that was almost the end of the season, 2014.
Yeah, with a handful of races left to go, they let him go. And it was at that point in time that I kind of raised an eyebrow and said, there's problems at NTS Motorsports, and now we're finding out that is absolutely true. According to one of their now former crew chiefs, recent Facebook post by Ryan McKinney stated that NTS had suspended operations. However, the son of the team's owner, Bob Newberry, Brennan, who we've talked about in racing here over the past few years, he told FrontStretch.com they are set to run in 2016. According to the report, negotiations are underway with a driver or drivers who would or could drive for them in 2016 to replace the departed Daniel Hemrick. Hemrick finished 7th in points last season, but for some reason they could not figure out how to keep Daniel Hemrick. Brennan Newberry said these words, quote, "We are 100% committed to pull the trigger at any time. We're just waiting on the secondary parties like sponsors and drivers to put their names on the dotted line to get the funds for the team. We're in a waiting period, and it's always scary for our employees," unquote. He then later in the story talked about how several employees had been laid off, the organization working hard to get their 2016 plan solidified with further plans to bring back as many of those that they laid off as possible. NTS Motorsports is one of those teams that they seem every once in a while to have this really good run, and you think maybe they've turned the corner, Dustin, and then the next time you talk about them, there they are, backmarkers again, because they can't seem to keep anything consistent.
They were there, and I'm gonna, not that I'm gonna throw them under the bus. So hopefully, if one of them actually hears this, I apologize in advance. You let your best weapon go. You let your best weapon in Ron Hornaday Jr. go, and this is what you kind of reap what you sow, so to speak. If you can't do what you got to do when you got the caliber championship driver that you've got with Ron Hornaday Jr., then you're not going to do anything. You have got to be able to go in and know what you're doing and be prepared for the things. And if you can't, then concentrate on your strengths. Don't let your strengths go. And that's what I really feel that they did when they shut his truck down, and he was running top 5 in points at that time with that handful of races to go. And you had an opportunity there.
And on top of that, Ron Hornaday Jr., despite the fact that he's old for a racer, he was 51 when he was let go?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
That's 51,
yeah, let's face it, that is certainly at the top of the ladder when it comes to age for NASCAR racers. But Ron Hornaday Jr. was showing at that point, again, top 5 in points when they let him go. He was showing that he was a contender for race wins. He was a contender for the championship, which could have really put NTS Motorsports on the map when it came to the Camping World Truck Series, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, he is a man who knows how to win because he has had multiple NASCAR Camping World Truck Championships, still holds the record for the most wins in the Camping World Truck Series, going all the way back to when it began as the Craftsman Truck Series. You let go of a man who has so much experience and so much knowledge, and therefore it is no surprise to me, and I don't think it is to you, Dustin, in the fact that we have seen them take that downturn since.
Well, look at the fact when they had Ron in the truck. They were contending for wins. They were there. They were running up front. They had that guy that they needed in the seat. He could have brought home a top 5 and finishing the points. There's money there. That's the thing, to have him in. So if I'm going to do anything else, I'm going to look at here's my strengths, here's my weaknesses. I was extremely shocked. You know that yourself. When we broke the news on the show, I said, I couldn't believe this. This is the stupidest mistake I've ever seen anybody make, is to let somebody go like Ron, knowing how well he's doing. And now that he's gone, we don't really get a chance to talk about him because what else they had? They didn't have anything else that could even contend with dealing with anybody else in the truck series. Ron Hornaday was NTS.
Yeah, I will give Daniel Hemrick credit. He seems to have done well enough for himself, but as is plainly obvious, he has since moved on, and he's going on to greener pastures here, while NTS Motorsports, they don't know what their future is.
Exactly.
When we got to take our first break here of this 2-hour-long show. When we come back, unfortunately, some sad news out of the world of NASCAR, and then we'll move on to IndyCar and an eyebrow-raising report out of the promoter of the not yet even run Boston Grand Prix. That and a whole lot more. We're just underway with the fastest hour in radio.
You're listening to the fastest hour in radio on Superstation 101.
The new year is all about starting fresh and with a clean slate. How about this be the year you finally put down cigarettes completely? With Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City, you can do just that. You know you've quit at the end of every cigarette. So let Wild Vapors show you how with vaping. Owners Eddie and Shelley were former smokers themselves. They started Wild Vapors because they knew they wanted to help others lay down cigarettes as well, with their own special brand formula that will help you gradually reduce your nicotine intake to eventually none at all. Their signature formula is mixed in an off-site cleanroom facility with using only the highest quality USP ingredients and leaving out artificial sweeteners and other unnecessary chemicals. Eddie and Shelley have your solution to finally laying down cigarettes. Join the 1,000 others who have found the freedom from smoking with Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Give them a call at 256-369-2569 or stop by one of their 2 locations in Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Hey, this is Late Model Mark from Talladega Short Track. You are listening to the fastest hour in radio show here on WYDE 101.1 FM.
Hey, welcome back in. Yeah, we invite you to come with us here for the last 90 minutes of a 2-hour fastest hour in radio. We appreciate you listening to us online, fastest hour in radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/the fastest hour in radio, at fastest hour on both Twitter and Instagram, or just give us a call. 941-1011-866-551-9933. Dustin up in Maryland getting ready to head on back down from Maryland, and colder weather than what we even have here.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm leaving here tomorrow. I mean, it's been great. It's been wonderful getting a chance to see everybody. I love being up for the holidays. But, man, I miss Sweet Home Alabama, I'll tell you that. There was another thing I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
We also have a new avenue for our listeners as well. A lot of people were talking about they missed the show, they didn't get a chance to catch the replay and all that stuff. We also now have a YouTube page. We're going to be putting up all of our shows. As soon as I actually get back down there, I've got quite a few shows that are ready to go. They're going to be slapped into the system. So if you get a chance where you don't get a chance to catch the show, something's going on, or you missed the replay or anything of that nature, if you go to YouTube, you search for our channel, The Fastest Hour in Radio. It'll take you over. Subscribe. You'll get email updates when new shows are posted. So we're going to get on that where we've got, once the show is up, it'll be posted within the next week. Just getting that done as well. So there's another avenue as well. If you miss out on the show, you don't get a chance to join us, you oversleep, something along those lines, you can catch us on YouTube. Simply search The Fastest Hour in Radio, subscribe, and you'll have all the shows right there on your smartphone or on your computer as well.
Wow. Well, there you go.
We're moving up, brother.
We are moving up. Real quick, we had just mentioned about Talladega Short Track, how they lost their concession stand and the tower with all of those memories after God only knows how many years that had been in place to a fire this past week. They still have plans next week to put on the Ice Bowl and to move on to the 2016 season. Our thanks to Kenneth on the Facebook page, Fastest Hour in Radio, said that the Thunderdome Sports Complex up in Jasper announced it's not set to run in 2016 unless they can either lease it out or have somebody come in and buy it. So hopefully somebody will, because I have heard good things about the Thunderdome Sports Complex, and I'd like to see that continue. Of course, it's not just that. It's the fact that we'd like to see local racing thrive all over the place, whether we're talking about Talladega or whether we're talking about Jasper. There's Sayre, there's Pinton, which we talked to the track promoter there not too long ago. Huntsville Speedway set to reopen. You got Montgomery Motor Speedway and so many other tracks that are all around just this listening area, and we want to see it thrive. So hopefully somebody can rescue Thunderdome at some point in time in the very near future.
Yes, I completely agree. I'll tell you what, and I have a new affinity myself for local. I've always been that National Series guy, and getting the chance to go out to Talladega Short Track that first time really lit a fire for me, as in the local scene, I really overlooked it. And I think a lot of people do overlook it. So if you get a chance, find your local track and get out there and enjoy some outstanding action. National Series might be fun, but I tell you what, these local guys, they put on one heck of a show.
Yeah, and again, you get to see a lot of the people that their names will be coming up later on down the line as they start to move their way up into different series. And you never know who of these guys or gals, quite frankly, could find their way up all the way up to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Is it the easiest thing to break into? No, but there is a lot of talent out at these short tracks, and you need to go see them because that's where the talent in the Camping World Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, the Sprint Cup Series, or quite frankly, IndyCar, this is where it comes from. It comes from these levels down here.
That's right. That's right.
That said, there's sad news out of NASCAR. We learned just yesterday that Marvin Panch passed away in the final day of 2015. Panch, who won 17 races during his time at the top level of NASCAR, what we now call the Sprint Cup Series, during his career that began in 1951. He went on to be named one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers when NASCAR celebrated their own 50th anniversary back in 1998. Panch drove for a couple of different teams, including the legendary Wood Brothers, Petty Enterprises, and the noted engineer Smokey Yunick. Among his wins, he claims the 1960 Daytona 500 and the 1966 World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Turned out to be his final win in his final season behind the wheel before he retired. According to a report in the Daytona Beach News-Journal newspaper, Panch was found in his car Thursday morning, unresponsive to attempts to garner his attention. When he'd retired from NASCAR racing, he'd remained a citizen of the area around Daytona Beach. Was preceded in his death by his wife, Betty, who passed away back in 2006. Marvin Panch, 89 years old. We're starting to lose that generation, Dustin, and it's the great stories that go along with it. And NASCAR has done a nice job, and quite frankly, there are several other halls of fame, not the least of which is the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, which is on the grounds of Talladega Superspeedway, not too far away from Talladega Short Track. They've done a nice job of going out and remembering and memorializing the drivers like a Marvin Panch or those drivers that are getting up there in age. And that includes the drivers that you, myself, John, we all grew up with. We remember the names of a Cale Yarborough and a Darrell Waltrip and a Richard Petty and a Bobby Allison and Donnie Allison, and you know, that list goes on and on. It's those guys that just immediately preceded them, your Marvin Panches, your Ned Jarrett's, and so on, the Fireball Roberts, who unfortunately passed away due to a racing accident. Those are the guys that are starting to pass away, and quite frankly, the men that we grew up with, the aforementioned Bobby and Donnie Allison, Darrell Waltrip, Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, and those guys, they're now getting up there in years as well, advancing quite quickly. And when they are gone, all we have is the stories that they have told. And unfortunately, all that's ever going to be is on tape or recorded, if you will. And I'm going old school by saying tape, I know, but still, we're going to lose those stories. And if we don't get the chance to talk with them, who knows what we're going to lose.
And that's the thing. They become legends, and we have our legends in NASCAR. You know, you're talking about Bobby and Donnie Allison and Darrell Waltrip. These. Marvin Panch was those are the types of guys that they were following along. They were the young and upcoming guys, the next generation, so to speak. But for the guys like Marvin Panch and ones that we've already lost, they were the pioneers. They were the ones who really brought NASCAR. They built it from the ground up, and we talk about it all the time when we talk about a lot of our legends. Is the fact of just the time, the dedication, and the effort they put into that sport that we get to enjoy each and every weekend. You know, for NASCAR, for all the series, you know, talking about Talladega Short Track, all those kids and younger guys that are coming up now, you know, they continue the tradition on. They now look to the likes of Bobby and Donnie and Dale Earnhardt Sr. and just all the stories and the racing action and the memories and everything that they had that they've just continued to file down the line. You know, losing somebody like Marvin Panch, you know, that's huge, you know, especially for our sport. But it's so great to get a chance to talk about them, to remember them, and to remember their contribution to our great sport of NASCAR.
Yeah, we should never forget them, and unfortunately, we have lost Marvin Panch. And again, don't really know what the cause of death was, just found unresponsive in his car. I think somebody claimed possible heart attack, but I don't think that's been confirmed at this point in time.
No, it hasn't.
We move on from NASCAR, move over to IndyCar, and a weird report that recently came out of the Boston Globe newspaper, shedding a bit of doubt on the promoter for the first ever Boston Grand Prix. From everything that I hear, the race is on regardless. But New England's largest city for the first time ever in 2016 set to host the Verizon IndyCar Series, going to do a Streets of the City of Boston race. But the report in the city's largest newspaper talks about Mark Perrone. Perrone's one of the key promoters for that upcoming event, and apparently he's got quite the history of tax problems. They include federal conviction for failure to file personal income taxes in both 1991 and 1992. Perrone admitted to the newspaper that he missed out on paying those taxes when he had entered a guilty plea to those charges back in 1999. And according to court records, Perrone did pay a $10,000 fine, and he got 2 years of probation because of the plea agreement. Well, court records also show other financial problems for Perrone. Those include liens having been placed upon his home by both the state of Massachusetts and the federal government for unpaid taxes that total, according to the report, more than $320,000.
Hello.
Yeah, no kidding. Liens were ending up removed in 2003, but at least some form of those liens have been reinstated in 2014 by both the state and the federal governments, as they sought more than $16,000 in back taxes and penalties that they claimed dated back to 2010. That same year, Perrone's mortgage company said to have begun foreclosure proceedings on that house. Well, Perrone told the newspaper over Christmas week he is now paid up on his back taxes and that his home is no longer in foreclosure, and placed the blame on his tax problems from the 1990s on his accountant at that time. However, stopped short of saying who that accountant was. Perrone was key in bringing the Verizon IndyCar Series to Boston, but he's since stepped away from Boston Grand Prix LLC due to what he is terming health issues. While he's still involved in preparation for the event, he has what he tells the newspaper a, quote, very limited, unquote, role in an advisory capacity. I think if I'm Boston Grand Prix LLC, I'm saying, Mark Perrone, thank you very much. Why don't you just stay right over there?
Yeah, and that's why I like that very limited role. Maybe a phone call or something. Hey, what you think on this? Oh, okay, thanks. You have a great time, buddy. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll set you up with a nice view for the race, but stay over there.
Yeah, you don't touch nothing.
Yeah, especially any books.
Nothing. You lose.
Especially no books. No books for you, my friend.
Yeah,
we're not.
No books.
Yep. So we'll let you read Curious George. That's it.
Yeah.
As for on-track news, IndyCar.com reports that two current drivers could actually find themselves cementing their places in series history when it comes to pole positions. Coming up here in 2016, they noted that the top 6 all-time pole winners in series history, dating back to 1930, show that Mario Andretti has the most all-time, locked down 67 poles during his storied career, followed, not all that surprisingly, by A.J. Foyt, who claimed 53 pole positions himself. In third is Bobby Unser. Here's where it comes down to brass tacks. Bobby Unser is followed by 2 active drivers in the Verizon IndyCar Series, those being Helio Castroneves and Will Power. See, Bobby Unser claimed 49 pole positions during his time in the IndyCar Series in whatever form that it was. Helio Castroneves, going into the 2016 season, he's claimed 45 pole positions, only 4 back. Will Power has claimed 42, 7 back. Might as well mention that 6th place is Rick Mears. He holds 6th with 40 all-time pole winners. Now, here's where we can put a little bit of focus for this for you, the listener. Should Helio Castroneves just equal his 2015 performance when it comes to qualifying, he would tie Unser's total with 49. Helio Castroneves claimed 4 pole positions, and one of those was right here in our own backyard, Barber Motorsports Park. That said, Will Power, should he equal his 2015 performance, he would actually end 2016 with 48 pole positions, only 1 behind Unser, because he claimed 6 this past year. The site noted that the defending champion Scott Dixon moved up on the all-time pole winner list as well. He claimed 2 in 2015, moved him into a tie with Johnny Rutherford for 12th all-time, 2 more. He would move into a tie with Paul Tracy. He claimed 25. So Scott Dixon, despite the fact that he's got multiple IndyCar championships, Dustin, not necessarily the biggest qualifier, but he certainly lays it down when it comes to the race. But Helio Castroneves, Will Power, they've won championships as well. Helio Castroneves, well known as an Indy 500 winner multiple times. We're talking about being able to look at history here in the making, and Helio Castroneves, still a pretty young guy. Will Power, still a pretty young guy. it seems weird to say, but A.J. Foyt could find himself moving down when it comes to the all-time series list, when it comes to accomplishments that he himself has done.
Yeah, and it'd be really weird to see that at the same time. But you're right. Helio and Will, they do a great job each year. They did a great job this year. But I got to look at it this much. I think Helio is going to tie, if not maybe gain one. I think coming off of his 2015 season, going into 2016, I think he's going to have a pretty decent year. I think he's going to be able to do something. His qualifying efforts were great. I know that much. So if he could just step it up just one notch, he could go one ahead of Unser. But A.J. Foyt, look out, buddy. They're coming.
Yeah, they are coming, and they're coming fast. No doubt. Now, Chip Ganassi Racing, which of course has interests in both NASCAR and IndyCar, has announced that 2 of their IndyCar drivers and 2 of the NASCAR drivers are set to participate in the upcoming 24 hours of Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Easy for me to say. Scott Dixon, who won the 2015 IndyCar Championship, set to again team with Tony Kanaan and the 2 NASCAR Sprint Cup drivers, Jamie McMurray and Kyle Larson. That foursome is going to attempt to repeat as the overall winners of the endurance event, testing both man and machine from 2015. So not a bad one. Here's the thing. These are guys, Scott Dixon has been, quote-unquote, fairly regular when it comes to driving in the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. But you look at a Jamie McMurray, you look at a Kyle Larson, last year, if I'm remembering correctly, it was his first season in running that endurance event. But you think about these guys, and these are guys who they specialize in doing other events. They specialize in doing other series. For them to go in and for them to claim the overall win in what is a difficult race to begin with, number one, and number two, have to do it over the endurance of it. That's impressive to me, to grab guys who are not used to those cars on a regular basis and see them come in and do this.
Yeah, I love watching that race. It's great to watch and just see the guys go out there and do their thing, but I would never in a million years want to do it.
Well, knowing the fact that you only have to do 2 to 3 hours at a stretch, I would be interested in at least taking a shift, but I got the ultimate in respect for these guys because you start getting into the nighttime and you have to really, really know that track because as fast as you're going, the lights aren't really telling you a whole lot.
No, not at all. I could take a shift. Yeah, sure, I'll step in for a shift. I mean,
in daylight,
I could do 13 hours straight. I do it at nighttime, daytime, whatever the case is.
For me, it's got to be daytime. It's just plain and simple. It's got to be in the daylight hours for me. I'm not doing it at night, man. I'm just going to get totally lost at some point in time because you think about the speeds that these cars are making around these courses, and you're putting so much stress and so much strain on your body as it is to end up being at night and having some glare off of lights, and God forbid that they get any kind of weather that moves in there to just add on to the difficulty of being in that particular event. I've got the ultimate respect, and I'm like you. I love to watch the race, but it's amazing the respect that I can have for them. And I go, only in certain parameters would I get behind the wheel of that car. And I don't say that when it comes to racing much.
Yeah, you'd be one of those ones. I'll sign this contract, but I'm driving during the daytime only.
Yeah,
when
really.
When the lights go on, my eyes go shut.
Oh, good night. No kidding. All right, let's see. Where else can we go here? Let's move on to Formula One, shall we? There's been some concern about how on schedule the first U.S.-based Formula One team in some 3 decades truly is. Sky Sports out of Europe is somewhat concerned about it anyway, and they state that the concerns at this time seem somewhat unfounded. We're talking about, obviously, Haas F1 team. Gunther Steiner, who's the team principal for Gene Haas and that organization, he told Sky Sports, quote, "We are only 10 weeks away from testing, but all the work is going to plan, so we're pretty happy. Everything seems to come together. Our equipment is almost all here now, and we've done a garage check, so when we set up in Barcelona, we will be right." Steiner continued, quote, "Obviously, the car is the last thing you bring in, and the production planning is going well. We will start to produce a car in mid-January, so a couple of weeks away from starting to build that car and finalize it. Said we will do crash testing at the beginning of January, start to put one together, get ready for February 22nd in Barcelona." He also added there's not going to be any standalone event in order to reveal the car to the public. They will choose to instead reveal the racer at the season's first test, February 22nd. As we mentioned, they said that they will unveil the car February the 21st, so it's still speculation as to exactly what the car is going to look like, but the basic chassis going to get crash testing here within the next few days, according to the report, and then the car will start to come together in the form that we will see it out on the track coming up a little bit later on. I find it hard to believe that Gene Haas, who is an engineer by trade, would, after all of the lead time that they have set up, and they specifically chose not to begin in 2015 because they wanted the extra time to make sure everything was right. Knowing all that, I find it really hard to believe that Gene Haas would allow them to be anywhere close to behind schedule.
Yeah, there is no behind schedule with Gene Haas. As much as he's pouring into this, and it's all eyes on that Haas Formula One racing team. So they've got to have everything done. They've got to have it done right because they do not want to look like a laughing stock of Formula One as the U.S.-based team gets back into Formula One.
Yeah, and a lot of eyes are on them because of the fact that this is, as we mentioned, the first U.S.-based Formula One team going back 3 decades. There was one that attempted to and had gotten approval from Formula One and the FIA to start racing. So I want to say right around 1983. I may have my timeline wrong, but I think that's the date. But unfortunately, they never got on track to be able to get on there. The last Formula One U.S.-based team that got on the track, you actually have to go back to the mid-1970s for that. A lot of eyes are on Gene Haas and the Haas F1 organization, and as you mentioned, they certainly don't want to be the laughingstock. Will they be highly competitive? That's a good question. I really don't know. I know that they're going to get decent equipment because of the alliance that they've built up with Ferrari. I still think they're going to get B-spec engines as to oppose what Ferrari's going to be keeping for themselves. But I don't, for example, think that they're going to necessarily be a Manor Marussia. It would kind of surprise me if we didn't see them claim a championship point or two. And I'm not talking about claiming a podium finish. I'm not talking about claiming a top 3 or even a top 5. I'm just thinking that at some point in time throughout the course of the year, Roman Grosjean especially, but possibly Esteban Gutierrez, they might claim a 10th or a 9th position one or two times this upcoming season.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to say the least. I'll leave it at that. That's what I'll say. The first couple races of the season, there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some, getting everything in a groove, getting with that program and getting it where they can get themselves under control, so to speak. And then once we see them actually lock everything in place, they're going to lock and go. We're going to see something good out of this Haas Formula One team. I'm excited. I mean, as you said, the last time we saw a U.S.-based team on track was the 70s. I'm 35. I've never seen it in my lifetime. I'm ready to see it in my lifetime, and I'm really. I know we do the bias side at times, the fan side, so to speak. I'm a Haas One fan, Haas F1 team fan already because this is exciting for me.
Yeah, this is a sport that has had a rough time trying to make it here in the United States of America, and it still is to some extent, as we've talked over the last 3-4 weeks, or really since the race happened, excuse me, about the troubles that Circuit of the Americas course has been having, therefore putting the U.S. Grand Prix as we know it in Austin, Texas, in somewhat of a doubt. But this is a sport that otherwise around the world is doing quite well, and I'm fascinated by it. The speeds that they can get up, yes. Now, is it the most exciting sport in the world? Once you get past the first turn, maybe not necessarily, but the talent that these guys have each and every week to put these cars out on the track and do 220, 230 miles per hour, because these cars are just a little bit faster than what the Verizon IndyCar Series cars are. Not by a whole lot, but they are enough faster to where you're going to look at them and go, and it is impressive. I'd like to see a little bit more on-track action, a little bit more than what we have seen. Quite frankly, what we've been looking at is a lot of single-file racing until you get maybe fifth further on back in the lineup there. And when we've seen passing, from, I'll say, 5th to 10th place, especially in the season finale or the last 2-3 races in the season, in watching what was going on in the rear of the field, because by that point in time, we knew who the Formula One 2015 season champion was. That was already very apparent because that had been locked up with 5 races to go. So it allowed the coverage to look back in the field, and we were seeing passing that was actually very, very exciting. And if you could get that from first to, let me see now, it looks like we've got 22 cars going into the 2016 season. If we could get that from first to 22nd, that to me would just move Formula One up that much more. We know how talented these guys are. Let's put them in a little more side-by-side action and see how much that talent actually translates.
Well, see, here's the best way that I could describe it. This is just my personal opinion when it comes to it. But I think the biggest problem that Formula One has in the United States, that issue that we have where it's not exciting enough. Let's look back at the fact of, and this is taking it back to the NASCAR side of the house. Look at the run of championships when Jimmy Johnson went on that 5 championship run.
Right.
We started losing a lot of the fan base. A lot of the fan base was like, I'm tired of this. This is boring. This is not what I'm going to pay to see.
Right.
That's the problem that you're going to encounter. Us as American-wise, we want to see action. We want to see stuff going on. We've been out at Talladega Short Track. We've watched it on TV when they're running single file for 40, 50, 60 laps. And it's like, I wonder what's going on the Golf Channel. And you switch over. That's kind of the same thing when it transfigures over to the Formula One side of the house. We want to see action. We want to see the passing. We want to see this stuff going on up front.
Yeah.
That's what we would need to get Formula One back to. If Formula One can make that happen, we got something cooking with Crisco, buddy.
Yeah, I think Formula One in a lot of ways is seeing what NASCAR has done. They're seeing what Verizon IndyCar Series has done as they've seen a resurgence there. And we here in the United States of America, we like to see that kind of side-by-side on-track action, which we get in NASCAR, we're getting in IndyCar. We talk about football. We love to see scoring in football. As the old phrase went from the Atlanta Braves back when they were still big, chicks dig the long ball. That's why we like to see the home runs and the scoring going on in Major League Baseball. That's what we like to see. When you just get into single file action, we just kind of look at it and go, okay, well, that was nice. They were fast.
Yeah, get excited, brother. That's what we want.
Well, we have 1 hour down, but that means we got 1 hour to go. We'll continue on talking about Formula One. Got some NHRA news as well as we debut that here on the Fastest Hour in Radio.
The new year is all about starting fresh and with a clean slate. How about this be the year you finally put down cigarettes completely? With Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City, you can do just that. You know you've quit at the end of every cigarette. So let Wild Vapors show you how with vaping. Owners Eddie and Shelley were former smokers themselves. They started Wild Vapors because they knew they wanted to help others lay down cigarettes as well, with their own special brand formula that will help you gradually reduce your nicotine intake to eventually none at all. Their signature formula is mixed in an off-site cleanroom facility with using only the highest quality USP ingredients and leaving out artificial sweeteners and other unnecessary chemicals. Eddie and Shelley have your solution to finally laying down cigarettes. Join the 1,000 others who have found the freedom from smoking with Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Give them a call at 256-369-2569 or stop by one of their 2 locations in Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Back to green flag action on the Fastest Hour in Radio on Superstation 101.
Hey, welcome back in. Hour number 2 of the Fastest Hour in Radio getting underway here. We just now started talking about Formula One. And Justin, you and I have been doing the show for a long time. We started off just talking about NASCAR. And it was actually because of one particular man in person that we started talking a little bit more open wheel racing. And that man, Burl from Sylacauga, who's now checking in, as you can too, 9411011, toll free 866-551-9933. With that said, we bring Burl in. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing quite well. What's on your mind today?
You kind of hit on it. So it's always bothered me about Formula One. It's not the racing; it's the television coverage. They concentrate on the leaders and they won't show the good racing that's going on behind it.
Sure.
And depending on what country is doing the televising, if they're racing in Brazil, well, they're going to concentrate on the Brazilian drivers and blah, 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 so on and so forth. So the problem, the way I see it, it's not the racing, it's the coverage.
Okay, yeah, and I think to some extent, I think you're right, because we also see that in NASCAR, and Dustin, feel free to jump in at any time. I see it in NASCAR. I see it to some extent in IndyCar, although I think IndyCar does it a little bit better, in the fact that they will concentrate on this handful of drivers and trying to tell us where, driver X is, and we'll use Formula One in this case. We'll know where Lewis Hamilton is. We'll know where Sebastian Vettel is. We'll know where Nico Rosberg is. But as far as the rest of the drivers, we're kind of left looking at the scroll just to see where they are, Dustin.
Yeah, and that's, that's a good point. I didn't really think about that till he brought that up. So that's a good point, Burl. When you look at the TV coverage, they do need to really step up their TV coverage too. Because now that I go back and I think about it, I've been, when watching some of the races, it's one of those things where, they kind of do concentrate on one, and we've got that on the NASCAR side of the house too. We always know where Dale Earnhardt Jr. is, even if he's in 43rd.
Yeah.
we know where he's at, but it's, if you don't just concentrate on one guy, don't just concentrate on a handful. Let's show the field. There's sponsors in all of our sports that deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good call, Burl. We appreciate it.
All right. See you.
Take care now. I do know that what we have seen from in Britain, at least, is that they have changed networks over there, but I'm not so certain that that's going to change the coverage that we see. I know that, for example, the BBC will start televising Formula One in Britain. I don't know as they have a whole lot, Dustin, to do when it comes to what we see nationwide or here in the United States. I want to say that is the sole responsibility of Formula One. They've got their own production network, if I remember correctly, and they're feeding that out to everybody else.
Yeah. So I think they really need to stop. There's a lot. I guess we could just basically say there's a lot of changes that they need to make to really bring this sport back. If they want to give this sport a charge, make some changes. Surprise us, excite us. Get us pumped up where we want to tune in to watch that racing and get the racing. So it's a trifecta of things. You got the racing, you got the coverage, and you got the fan base. You get all three of them on the same page, and I think you'll have one heck of a series going back into what we want it to be.
Yeah, I agree. A little bit more respect out there for three-time Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton. I mean, you think about what I just said. Three-time Formula One champion, you automatically have to give some respect to that, but he has also revealed he has had dyslexia all of his life. Plans to make the most of it for those afflicted by the malady. While talking with a German newspaper whose name I will not attempt to butcher here on this show, Hamilton talked about his relationship with friend and co-Mercedes driver Nico Rosberg, and then when it came down to talking about his school days, he was very open. He said to the newspaper, quote, "As a dyslexic, I struggled. I also missed out on a lot of lessons on Fridays because I was racing on the weekends. School was not a lot of fun for me." Hamilton, though, does foresee a time when he is done with racing, and said that when he is done with that part of his life, he said that he knows what he wants to do. He wants to help kids who also suffer from dyslexia. He said, quote, "When I stop, I will get out of the racing world, that's for sure. I like children, so I'd like to build schools for poor kids where they can learn an instrument and get a good education because I know for myself how hard that is." We have talked many occasions about how the racing world will come together, Dustin, when something happens tragically or when one racer finds himself down competitively because of no fault of their own, I guess is probably a better way to look at it, that the racing world will come together and they will form a bond. And we've certainly talked about that when it came to the passing of Justin Wilson, for example, how the racing world, whether it was IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One, NHRA, or whoever it was, the whole racing world came together and said, hey, listen, his family is going to need help. Let's go find out and contribute in ways of being able to help them. Lewis Hamilton and these other drivers, it's not just him. This is just one prime example of it, how when they know that they have this finite time behind the wheel of a race car, they are starting to say, hey, listen, I have been given a lot. I have got a lot because of what I have been able to do in my life. Now I want to give back.
Yeah, and, you know, this is the one thing, and we've talked about it off air just numerous times. We've talked about it on air numerous times, is just the fact of what these guys do, not only on the track, in the cars, off the track as well. They devote their time, they devote their money, they devote their energy, you know, to doing things like Lewis is talking about. You know, and for someone like him to, you know, hey, I have dyslexia. I want to help others. And man, I just love all of the racing, the way the guys that come out of racing or in racing, they give back. And it's just, that's probably, I think I've told you a few times, I think that's my favorite part about being a race fan is the fact that, you know, these guys do so much and they give so much and they give so much time. They dedicate themselves to their fan bases, to just the numerous hours that they put in, and their families, you know, they lose a lot of time with their families, but it's something that they continue to get better at, and they do so well. Man, I love that part. I love the fact that Lewis is talking about that and what he wants to do when he realizes that time is going to be up at some point. And then a lot of racers, they also realize that as well. They realize, you know, this isn't going to go on forever. What am I going to do when I get out? How am I going to leave an everlasting impact when I leave this sport, when I still stick around the sport regardless? But for Lewis, that's so cool.
Yeah, I love that. He also got to talking about the relationship with his Mercedes teammate, Nico Rosberg. Lewis Hamilton said kind of hard to think that Rosberg could become a free agent considering his performance over the last 2 years. But at this time, Rosberg has no contract beyond this upcoming 2016 season. Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, told Speed Week magazine about Rosberg, quote, "We will talk about an extension in the summer at the earliest. Until then, let's see what happens." Wolff didn't rule out the thought that the Mercedes would not bring back Rosberg after the 2016 season comes to an end. Lewis Hamilton's contract runs longer than Rosberg's. It's at least through, I want to say 2018, but I'm not 100% certain on that, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's 2018. So Toto Wolff said that he will not let the fact that both drivers are very talented get in the way of team harmony. At this time, he said it's not out of control. You and I might have a different way of looking at that, quite frankly, Dustin. It seemed a little out of control from time to time.
Yeah, it does. I guess out of control would be an understatement.
Yeah. Toto Wolff told the German newspaper he has no problem with the rivalry at this time. Said, quote, "It will go on with the two giving nothing to each other, but that's good for the team because it makes our cars faster." He then cautioned, quote, "There are clauses in his," I'm assuming Rosberg's, "contract, as is the case with all the other staff, in the case of damaging the company, for example." And they came close to it on occasion because we saw them bumping and running on several occasions throughout the course of the season, most notably on that first turn that we keep talking about, because for just about every single race in the 2015 season, the Mercedes were on the front row. Whether it was Hamilton on the pole or Rosberg on the pole, it didn't matter. Their teammate was the guy who was starting second. And the vast majority of your passing happens right there at the beginning, where you get that run off of the front straight and you go into corner number one, and depending on how close corner number two is, maybe that combination there, the vast majority of your passing is going to happen right there. And we've seen more than one race where Rosberg and Hamilton had gotten into each other, and in a couple of occasions it caused enough damage to one or the other to where they had problems the rest of the race.
Yeah, we saw that a lot of times, but it just goes to show that they both want it just as bad as the other one does. But that's not something you're used to seeing, especially between teammates. I mean, the thing I always go back to is that one race where we saw after Rosberg won. I know I talk about it all the time, but you can see the tempers. You can see the non-playful type attitude between the two of them, between Rosberg and Hamilton, especially after that win that Hamilton had, and he tossed that hat over to Rosberg, and
Right.
Rosberg just flung it back at him.
Yeah.
That's where it's, where it's caught on camera, and it's like, yeah, you can't tell me that there's not a problem between the two of those, especially when we see it on track and during celebratory time,
Sure.
for crying out loud.
Yeah, Hamilton sat there and he laughed it off. To his credit, he laughed it off, saying, "Oh, it was just one of those, fun little things between the two of us." But I was looking at Rosberg's face when I saw that replay of that incident. I didn't see any smile on Nico Rosberg's face. He had a very serious look on his face when he flung that hat back.
Yeah, he flung that hat back with that look of, if you don't get away from me, I'm going to hurt you. I mean, we've seen the NASCAR tweets, the funny side of things after a NASCAR race.
Sure.
Where they do the funny tweets. Could you imagine text messages between Rosberg and Hamilton for, some type of a side gag thing?
Yeah, that would be interesting to note. I'm not so certain. Yeah. Well, and you and I have talked about it. We talked about it not too long ago. I believe it was the Monaco Grand Prix. We found out that the two of them both live in Monaco throughout the course of that's where they call home now, despite the fact that their home countries are for Lewis Hamilton, Britain, and for Nico Rosberg, Germany. But they both have apartments where they live in Monaco year-round. And in that process, they said that they've had a friendship that goes all the way back to when they first started in racing, but it really seems like some of that friendship is fraying on the edges.
Oh, as you were talking about the fact that they live in Monaco, there's a certain scene in a movie that I'm reminded of. And it's got to be Days of Thunder, Cole Trickle, Rowdy Burns driving the rental cars.
Yes.
Could you imagine these two having to go to a meeting across town and run into each other?
As long as they're not in the same car.
That would be great. They'll split. We're taking different cars.
Yeah, really.
But if they just run into each other on the street, I wonder just what happens. I want to be. They need a dash cam on both of their personal cars.
So why were you late? Cole, I believe it was car trouble. Yeah, I believe it was, Rowdy.
That guy standing outside and just.
Yeah, really. Not really valet parking those two. They're kind of, messed up. Let's take a quick break here from talking about Formula One, get back to what we talked about and led off the show with. The sad news out of Talladega Short Track and the fact that they had a fire that took down the tower and the concession stand, which is all in one 3-story level thing here. And our good friend who brought us out there to Talladega Short Track and got us familiar with it now on the phone, Late Model Mark, how are you doing, first of all, today? Happy New Year.
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you and Dustin. And I just wanted to tell Dustin, I have a couple of apartments in Monaco if he's interested. Just email me if you're interested.
I think both of us would be, at least to watch for a couple of weeks what the response would be between Hamilton and Rossi. I think that would just be kind of fun. Rosberg.
Yeah, it's going to be a little icy, but thank you. I didn't catch the first hour of your show, but thank you for mentioning what happened at Talladega. I was quite shocked when I heard about it at 4 a.m. Monday morning, and I saw the pictures, and it was just crushing. It was just one of those things, the darn thing, like you probably mentioned, burnt to the ground, which is a whole bunch of memories and history went up in that fire. There's a lot of pictures. You may have seen them when you've been up there with various NASCAR stars and like the previous announcer, Perry Holman, who's my announcing hero. Just a lot of memorabilia and memories and good times up there that went. And, throw in the loss of the equipment. The bottom line, no one got hurt. But I'll tell you, Dustin and Steve, check this out. This is really something. This is the racing community at its best, especially in short track racing. As soon as the fire hit, the line of volunteers offering materials, help, just was unbelievable. Mickey Swims, who's the owner and promoter of Dixie Speedway in Woodstock, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and Rome Speedway up in Rome, Georgia, has offered us the use of his concession trailers. He's bringing it no charge on his own, absolutely free to our track. We've had West Jefferson Speedway in Whitesville, Georgia, offer us a mobile announcing stand. We've had people from Five Flag Speedway, any concession that we need, any materials. People have just showed up at the track offering their services, and Lynn Phillips has put some of them to work. And as soon as the fire marshal got done with his investigation, the cleanup has begun, and it's almost all gone. We're going to have the ice bowl next weekend. It's going to be on. It's going to be one of our biggest ones. It may be a little odd not being up in that tower or having the tower, but we are going to race, gentlemen. We are going to rise from the ashes, and we're going to come back this coming weekend, and we're going to open up the Alabama racing season. Tower or no tower, we're going to kick some butt.
I love it. Well, how many times, Dustin, have we talked about the racing community come together, and that just proves it right there. Several different tracks in and around the area coming and offering up equipment, whether it's concessions or PA equipment or whatever it is, to be able to put that race on next week. And that's what racing does. We as a community, we all come together to help support each other, Dustin.
Yeah, and you know, hearing you talk about that, Mark, hearing you talk about all the different tracks that are pitching in and the volunteers lining up, man, that just makes you there's just a sense there. You know what? Humility, the human nature is not dead. That's what this tells me right there. We talk about it. There's so many bad things that are going on in the world. So many things are going wrong. But, you know, for something like this to happen and just the support that you talked about right here on the show that's coming in for Lynn Phillips and everybody out there at Talladega Short Track, man, that gives me hope. That's exactly what we need, a shot in the arm, and right there is exactly that. I love that fact. I love the fact that the racing community comes together. I love the fact that the racetracks, they're not against each other. Man, they are out there to help one another, boost each other up. When somebody has a problem, somebody's there to boost it up. That's why racing's great, and that's why the local action is great as well. Man, that's just great news. I'm so glad to hear that. I cannot wait to get back down there for next weekend's Ice Bowl now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm asking people on a lot of the internet websites to just please come out and support our race, support our track. Not because we had a fire, but let's get together as a racing family. And this is like one time a year I get to see a lot of people from different parts of the Southeast and the Midwest that come out just for this race and make a one-time visit. A lot of the racers that come from all over the place make it a one-time visit, you know. And it's renewing acquaintances, and it's like Lynn said, it's a race, but it's also a happening. And it's just a very big deal with camaraderie and such. And, you know, like you said, there's rival speedway that we're all vying for cars and fans in these tough economic times. When the times get tough, everybody comes on board. I'd also like to give a shout-out to Gene Norman, who ran Arkadelphia Speedway for a while. He's offered the world to the track.
Nice.
One of our sponsors, Oxford Lumber, Ace Hardware out there in Oxford area, who's a big sponsor of our track, said, hey, whatever you need, come and get it. We'll figure it out later, whatever you need. I mean, this is just, it's been unbelievable. And I talked to Lynn a couple, 2-3 times this week, and he's like overwhelmed with the outpouring of support and how people are coming together. He had a pickup truck full of kids come on, I believe it was Monday, in the pouring rain with tools, wanting to help out whatever they could.
Nice.
And with, you know, being raining, we didn't do it, but they came back the next day. So it's just been a big deal. It's going to be a fun race. Not exactly sure where I'm announcing at. I might be up in that little booth in turn 4. But you know what I told my wife, who's listening right now? I love you, sweetheart. But I would stand on a dang crate with a microphone in my hand and announce for 2.5 days if I had to. That's how much it means to me. So,
well, Dustin and I will definitely be there. John, I think you're going to come out with us as well. So we'll be there live and in person, ready to support. And I don't know whether you know this or not, and this may not be a question that can be answered. You said that the fire inspector had left. Have they figured out a cause for this, or is that still up in the air?
They had they left with, from what I was told, as an undetermined cause, but they have high degree of, well, that's not good English, high degree of certainty. I don't know what you want to call it.
Close enough.
They are pretty much convinced it was an electrical fire. Some bozos out there thought it might have been arson. Shut up and go home. It was not arson.
Okay. And that was for me, I think that was the main concern, was that nobody had gone out there and intentionally set this.
No, not at all. And from what Lynn told me, now this is subject to change on time, he predicts by the end of March or the early April, we are going to have a brand new tower. And that'll also quench the rumors of the idiots that said, well, Talladega didn't have any insurance. Well, how the heck do you know? Really? And it's none of your business if they did or not, but we're going to have a new tower up at the end of March, early April, as it stands right now.
I know you will keep us in touch, but hey, if there's anything that we can do, keep us apprised of it, and at the very least, keep us apprised of the progress. Okay?
I certainly will, and you guys have been absolutely great. I'm loving the little more emphasis on the local scene. We'll get into the drag racing scene a little bit later, but you guys have provided such a great service, both you and Dustin, and of course John. You guys are awesome. Always been good to me, and I really love this show. I'm quite addicted to it. I'll listen to the replay tonight, and you know, God bless you guys. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for supporting Talladega Racing in Birmingham. And I support your racing show very much, and thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it very much, guys.
Well, the same goes right back to you, Mark, because you've opened up our eyes, no doubt. We always knew. I knew about local short track racing, obviously, but allowing us the chance to go out there and have our eyes open to what was going on in the dirt track scene has certainly been a lot of fun for us.
No problem. And remember, I always like to close my call with Dirt Late Models rule. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Sounds good. We'll see you next week, Mark. Thank you so much. And he's right. That, to me, was the perfect prime example of what we had just been talking about, how the racing community will tend to gather together and they will find ways to support people that are in need. In this case, it is other tracks and other track promoters that are coming around, and they are showing the support for a Talladega short track. And it doesn't surprise me at all that Lynn Phillips and everybody out there at Talladega short track have plans already in place to make sure that the 2016 season goes off without a hitch.
I tell you what, Steve, and this is just me talking. I don't know if you would, if you'll. I know you will. Man, give me a hammer. Give me something.
Sure.
I'll come out there and help. I think we at the show would definitely chip in and jump out there with a hammer and start knocking some stuff together to help them rebuild too.
Yeah.
I would in a heartbeat. If they have any need for volunteers, I hope Late Model Mark will let us know, because I tell you what, I know I'll be out there.
Absolutely. I think all three of us would be more than happy to go on out there. That said, we talk about support within the racing community. There's a reason why we have a great sponsor like Wild Vapors, because of the fact that if you're trying to lay off of cigarettes, these are the guys you need to talk to, because not only are they going to get you the right equipment, Dustin, they're going to give you the support that helps you through the process.
Yeah, and this is a big time of year for support. It's that time of year. It's New Year's. Everybody makes that New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take better care of myself. I'm going to lay down cigarettes. Okay, well, now you've made that step, but where do you go? What do? You're starting off in something you don't know. You don't need to think about it anymore. You need to go down to the knowledgeable staff at Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Eddie and Shelley Bowman, former smokers, started up 3 years ago, and they have built what has become a great place for information, for success, for you to lay down the cigarettes forever. It's been great for me. It's been great for John. It's one of those things where you walk in, you feel like you're part of the family, you feel comfortable, and you can walk out of there knowing you've got the knowledge and you've got the ability to lay down the cigarettes forever and go to vaping, where you can forget about all the stuff that you've done to your body over the years. Make that New Year's resolution. Stick to that New Year's resolution. Make it and stick to it. Go to Wild Vapors in Sylacauga in the Walmart Shopping Center and in their Alexander City location right over by Central Alabama Community College. Visit them on Facebook, facebook.com/wild.vapors.5, or give them a call today. Ask them, questions, whatever you've got, they will answer them. 256-369-2569. But whatever you do it right, do it the best way possible, and stop by and see our friends Eddie and Shelley Bowman down at Wild Vapors in Sylacauga today. Lay down cigarettes, start vaping.
Dustin, what I found amazing was the information that Shelley had when we went in and I got my vape, months ago. The fact that certain chemicals are in other vapors really shocked me.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things. I'll tell you flat out, and this is just a personal story from me. While I've been up here on vacation, I've been in 3 fights with people up here over vaping.
Okay.
And this is serious. I mean, it's to the point where there are so many uninformed, ill-informed people out there that have this one-way twisted believability, if that's a word. If not, congratulations, I just made it.
Yes, you have.
But, they believe whatever they read. And the thing is don't read the stuff you see online, because I guarantee you it's going to be some type of biased thing. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. You're talking about ingredients, John. You're talking about the ingredients such as sucralose, which is horrible for you. You're talking about ingredients like aspartame. Here's a news flash. Aspartame is in chewing gums, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, it's bad for you. And then the creme de la creme of all, diacetyl. That's what causes that popcorn lung that we detailed right here on the show when we talked about Wild Vapors before. And that's what you won't find in Wild Vapors juices. They have made sure that they have taken everything out that is harmful for you, leaving you the best vape possible, so that way you can vape and you can feel better and you can know that you're getting a quality product. John, I know it's been doing great for you. I know it's been doing great for me. I've got my radio voice back. But knowing just that fact that those ingredients are not in the juices at Wild Vapors, I think that really just sets the tone for the knowledge and the information, as well as knowing you're getting a quality product from a great bunch of people.
Yeah, that did it for me. The knowledge that this other juice over here has sucralose in it, and the sucralose is known to do this, and it really shocked me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Going from a frying pan into the fire almost.
Right.
Well, that's also like you walk into any normal shop. I've said it right here on the show before. You walk into a shop. I walked into a shop. This is no joke as well. Walked into a shop up in Kennett Square, PA. Not going to call them out by name because they know who they are because they met me. But I walked in and I straight asked the guy because my friend wanted to get a vapor, and so I told them where to go. I said, for right now, you need to find this, but you need to get in touch with Eddie and Shelley. But I walked in and I said, here's my one question about your juice, bud. And he said, what's that? I said, does it have sucralose in it? And his eyes just got big, like he had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, you sell a product that you have no clue what's in it.
You
don't get that at Wild Vapors. So even if you're out of our listening area, if you're listening online, you can call them, you can order your juice and know that you're getting a great juice that John and I get to enjoy each and every day.
That's why we talk about them, because we recommend them over others because of the fact, number one, of their knowledge. Number two, we know that what they put in there is not going to have you going from one cancerous product right into another.
Bingo.
When we come back, we got to take our final break. Hard to believe that we're already here. We're 90 minutes through. Really?
I know.
90 minutes through.
Can we go another hour?
Jim Butters probably won't let us. But that said, we got 30 more minutes to go. When we come back, we talked about Haas F1 team. Now we'll talk about the American racer, Alexander Rossi. Seems to think that there might be an opening for him in Formula One in 2016. We'll detail that and so much more right after this.
You're listening to the fastest hour in radio on Superstation 101.
The new year is all about starting fresh and with a clean slate. How about this be the year you finally put down cigarettes completely? With Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City, you can do just that. You know you've quit at the end of every cigarette. So let Wild Vapors show you how with vaping. Owners Eddie and Shelley were former smokers themselves. They started Wild Vapors because they knew they wanted to help others lay down cigarettes as well, with their own special brand formula that will help you gradually reduce your nicotine intake to eventually none at all. Their signature formula is mixed in an off-site cleanroom facility with using only the highest quality USP ingredients and leaving out artificial sweeteners and other unnecessary chemicals. Eddie and Shelley have your solution to finally laying down cigarettes. Join the 1,000 others who have found the freedom from smoking with Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Give them a call at 256-369-2569 or stop by one of their 2 locations in Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Hello, this is Jay Schiller, 2015 track champion, Talladega Short Track. You are listening to the fastest hour on radio, 101.1 WYDE.
Hey, welcome back in. Final 25 minutes or so of this week's Fastest Hour in Radio. It's been a lot of fun here over the last 2 weeks. This week, last week, being able to do 2 hours. That said, when we come back next week and we start to get back into regular formation and how things go throughout the course of the regular process of a weekend here at Superstation 101 WYDE, we're still going to have 90 minutes. We're still going to start at 7 a.m. We're going to go until 8:30. So we'll have 90 minutes of racing. No, we're not changing the name of the show. It's still the Fastest Hour in Radio, but in this case, we're going to give you 90 minutes. So think of it as the Fastest Hour in Radio with a bonus 30 minutes.
And you know what it just says? It says this. It says you set up for one thing, and many, many things are blessed from God each and every day. And we got blessed with more minutes to add onto the show because people want it, and we're going to give it.
There you go. All right, here we go. We talked about Haas F1, the American-based team getting ready to start in 2016. Then you had the American-based driver, Alexander Rossi, who he ran 5 of the last 6 races in Formula One this past year. He's now hinting he may still have a future in Formula One. He may also have a ride for 2016. Rossi put out a statement on his website quoting, "As I write this, my team and I are working hard on 2016 and look forward to sharing some exciting news soon." He also talked about Manor Marussia by saying these words, quote, "I would like to thank them for their continued belief and commitment in me and for allowing me the opportunity to make the most of my F1 race debut." Again, he ran 5 of the season's final 6 events, missed only the season finale because of a scheduling conflict with his GP2 team. And you say, well, wait a minute, GP2 versus Formula One, why would you worry about the feeder series versus the main series? Well, he was running for a championship in GP2, so that was where his money was. He consistently, though, while he was running in the Formula One area, outperformed his Manor Marussia teammate Will Stevens. He beat him 4 out of the 5 races he ran. As Rossi displaced Roberto Meri, it appears that Meri is not going to be back with Manor Marussia, according to all reports. FoxSports.com, the organization states, FoxSports.com states that the organization is looking at bringing back Stevens, Rossi, and a junior driver for Mercedes by the name of Pascal Wehrlein. Manor Marussia switching from Ferrari over to Mercedes engines in 2016, so as kind of a thank you to the German maker, they may feel obligated to help out their driver, but it may also be a situation where Pascal Wehrlein might end up being the reserve driver and Rossi gets the ride, or that could be switched. Wehrlein is your main driver, whereas Rossi becomes your main reserve driver. I don't know. Again, things still have to be worked out, but not only maybe, Dustin, do we get an American-based team, but we might also have an American-based driver in Formula One coming up here in a couple of months when they kick off the Formula One season.
Man, that would be so great. I mean, we talked about it before about, with an American-based team coming back, but an American driver as well, it would just be amazing. This is the one thing that just bugs me to no end about Formula One, though, is the fact that we never know until the last possible second what's going to happen.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of teams wait until the last possible second to let us know. So we'll keep an eye on it for you. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it for you, but that's about all I can say. Dustin, you have the chance to look ahead on this, so you will know the answer by the time I ask the question. So, John, I'm going to ask you to listen very carefully here. We talk about sports franchises or organizations and how much they cost when it comes to selling them or how much they're worth. For example, to purchase, we'll start with American-based stick and ball teams. For example, Dallas Cowboys, New England Patriots, Washington Redskins of the NFL, all worth more than $1 billion, sometimes well north of that. New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox, LA Dodgers, Major League Baseball. If you were to go buy them, expect to pay at least $1.5 billion or more to buy the organization in total, according to what Forbes magazine is telling us, okay? We've told on the air how much it costs annually to run and operate a Formula One series organization. So how much would it cost you to buy a Formula One organization, one that's already in existence?
F1 already in existence. Is it a predominant team?
We'll say mid-range.
Oh, I like that question. That's a good question, John. Is it a crappy team or are they good?
Yeah, right.
It's a mid-range team.
I'm going to throw out $750 million.
Okay, so you're saying $750 million US.
Ish, yeah.
Okay, is that about where, given just the information that I gave you, Dustin, is that where you would fall? Would you say higher or lower?
Well, I didn't get a chance to actually look at this part, so knowing what I would have to go higher.
Okay, so you think maybe $1 billion?
Maybe $1.75 billion.
Oh, okay, you're going to go well north of that.
I'm going to go well north. I'm going to say, just knowing, $1.5 million for a team and everything else, but for knowing what I know about Formula One thus far and how much it really costs to put on a race, I've got to say upwards of $1.75 billion.
Okay, would it surprise you if I said 1.5?
No, that would not surprise me at all.
Would it surprise you if I said $1.5?
What?
Yeah, $1.50. That's how much Renault paid to buy Lotus.
Yeah, there's a lot of
did somebody forget a couple?
Kickbacks there somewhere.
Did somebody forget a zero, a comma? Did somebody put a comma in the wrong place?
No, and here's why. According to reports out of Renault, they were able to buy Lotus for the grand total of €1 or $1.50 US, but the deal included Renault paying off all the team's debts.
Oh, see, now there's a clause. There's always a clause.
Yes. That was reported to be in the hundreds of millions of euros, which would put it probably, I don't know. Again, hundreds of millions is a nebulous amount. I would say probably close to $1 billion if I were to guess. That's, in the end, what Renault ended up having to pay.
I was going to say, because if I can buy a team for $1.50, man, just sign me up. I think I got a $5 in my pocket right now.
Yeah, I was sitting here thinking to myself, I think I've got some cash here on me.
Hold on.
I've got Hey,
I've got $2. I've got $2 U.S. change.
Hey, let's buy the whole sport.
I was about to say, yeah, I've got $3 right here. I've got enough to buy 2 teams. You've got enough to buy a team. I think if we pool together, we could probably buy the majority of the F1 teams if they were only about 50 apiece.
Yeah, we could buy all
That's
of them.
Yeah, I say let's do it. Let's put all of our money together and just put a monopoly.
Yeah. Whew. And then we have to figure out the operating expenses of that. Well.
We'll let
but
you do that, Steve. You're the brain.
We'll be hiring an accountant.
Please not that one guy Ferrone.
Yeah, really. No kidding. On to other stuff. Reports from Aston Martin. They've confirmed earlier speculation that the British car maker, they were hedging their bets when it came to sponsoring in Formula One. The CEO of the company, Andy Palmer, quoted recently in a French newspaper by saying these words, quote, "We do not have the means to invest in Formula One. The only interest in motorsport for a brand like ours is determine the quality of our technology in road cars. But I do not see how participating in the Grand Prix events can provide any value." So Aston Martin is out. They will continue in sports car racing over there in Europe. I don't think we'll see much of them over here in the United States. For example, the Tudor United Sports Car Series. I don't think we'll see much, if any, of them there, but it is quite likely that we'll see them a lot in, for example, hey, we talked about the 24 Hours of Daytona. Got the 24-hour endurance race over in Le Mans, which is a very, very prestigious event. I'm sure you'll probably see a pretty good amount of Aston Martin over there as they continue to try and pull themselves back up and become one of the elite car makers in the world. Reports coming out of the United Arab Emirates state that one man, who was otherwise unidentified, has been arrested and has already had one court appearance in relation to a possible terrorist attack on the season-ending Formula One event. The defendant's accused of supporting both Al-Qaeda and ISIS and planning local terrorist attacks, including one in the final event of the 2015 Formula One season. The defendant, as one would expect, is denying all charges.
Well, of course, why not? You know, you got to deny. That just is scary right there, Steve. Right
it is.
There, knowing the fact that just the soft targets. We saw it in Paris. Now we're seeing it. We were hearing that he was planning something in the United Arab Emirates. That's just, you're not safe anywhere.
Yeah. Here's my take on that. If he's denying all charges, then he can't be ISIS, because ISIS would be all over it.
Probably. Well, in this case, I think ISIS would be all over it if it had succeeded.
Yes.
Well, that's a good point.
They don't want to take advantage. They don't want to take the failed attack. They would want it, if it actually happened.
I realize that this borders on stereotyping, but this was probably the biggest concern of mine when we were talking about how Formula One was thinking, well, maybe we can expand out by a couple of events instead of just 20, maybe do 22, 23, because there were a lot of countries in the Middle East that were interested in hosting Formula One events. But when you and I talked about that report somewhere around mid of last year, this was a concern for us with all of the unsettled nature of what's going on over there. Al-Qaeda is well known as being cemented in that area. Now, ISIS has come around here. I don't want to get overly political here, but this was the concern that I had when it came to putting on major worldwide events where you have the world watching and you have so many people that are in attendance at one of these events. Is this really what you're looking for? Are you that desperate for the money that you're going to put on a race where you are literally in the backyard of the network of terrorists?
Yeah, you couldn't pay me to go to one of those events. But I'll tell you this much, and I know we're not political, but if you've got the money to put on a Formula One race in your country,
maybe clean your country up a little bit.
Well, not just that, but maybe take some refugees while you're at it.
But hey, sure, that could be true too.
I know this is not a political talk show. I know that, but at the same time, this now borderlines. It's political is now invading anything and everything.
Sure. Yeah, we can see where the politics. We can see where the politics would come in and kind of overlap some of how the sporting world goes along. Because if you look at what's going on here in the United States of America, everyone's talking about how Christmas being the religious holiday for Christians that it is. How would you do a terrorist attack on Christmas? And I had said on other shows on this particular radio station, I wouldn't do it on Christmas just because there's so much that's closed. On the other hand, if you want a celebration where you've got a whole lot of people that are in attendance, you look at the college football national championship game. It just happens to have the University of Alabama taking on Clemson here. But even if it was Oklahoma versus Michigan State, you're still going to have a sellout crowd in Phoenix of close to 100,000 people that are going to be in attendance there. You've got the Super Bowl coming up in the middle of February. Regardless of what team is in, you're going to have 100,000 people that are in attendance either in the stadium or at least in and around the stadium. Or You look back just a couple of nights ago, and what happened on December the 31st, where you had a couple of million people crowding into Times Square to watch a crystal ball drop.
Yeah, and me being a United States Marine, and that's the one thing that you learned first when it came to tactics, was the fact that you don't hit somebody where their strength is. You hit them where the weakness is, and our weakness is our sport, because we're so inundated with our sports that we have set ourselves up to be soft targets. We've set ourselves up where we feel comfortable where we're at. We're so, engorged in the action that's in front of us that we don't pay attention. And a lot of people, they're in such of a rush to get around, to get to their seats, to get the food, to shut the kids up, to shut the wife up if she came, unless you left her at home, whatever, cooking food, whatever the case may be, whatever she's doing. That's the thing, is a lot of people, they don't pay attention. And we're always talking about, you see something, say something. Guarantee you not one person sees something, and if they do, they don't realize it because they're so focused on what's going on. That's why those targets such as that are just so easy for these people to hit. I mean, a Formula One race in the United Arab Emirates, that would be a cakewalk, basically, just because there's nobody really paying attention or thinking that's going to happen. We have to stop thinking that way. We have to start thinking it can happen anywhere, anytime. We have to be on alert.
Yep, I agree. One more Formula One note, and then we'll turn to the first time ever on this show to the NHRA. Queen Elizabeth II specifically, awarded a one-time Formula One champion with a very high honor for his contributions to motorsport for Great Britain. Sir John Surtees, he's the only man to have actually won a championship on both motorcycles and in a race car. He was actually first honored by British royalty back in 1959 when he was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire, or MBE. That obviously accorded him the Sir prefix at that time. Later, he was named an officer of the Order of the British Empire, so he got a promotion. I don't know whether he gets Sir twice, but either way. That happened in 2008. Now, Surtees, who was a major motorcycle racer in the 1950s and early 1960s, winning several motorcycle championships during that time, then moved over to Formula One racing, and he did so well he claimed his driver's title there in 1964, in addition to 6 race wins overall. On December the 31st, Surtees honored with the senior title of Commander of the Order of the British Empire. So I guess now we have to call him Commander John Surtees. But
yeah, I was thinking it would just be like Sir John.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations to...
Yeah, that's awesome.
Congratulations to the 88-year-old man.
He's reached Bond status.
He has reached Bond status. Get the funny feeling he's not going to... I get the funny feeling he's not going to be playing a whole lot with the quartermaster. Good grief.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to go there, but hey...
I shut up.
Now we can. Let's go over to the NHRA. It's been a long time, and because of the fact that we really have never talked about it, we're going to do a little bit of a review of 2015 as well. But first, this bit of news. Erica Enders. She's officially leaving the car make that led her to back-to-back champions in the NHRA Pro Stock Division. She's leaving behind Chevrolet Camaros, and next year she's going to be taking the wheel of a Dodge Dart GT Pro Stocker.
Swing!
Wow.
I'm a Dodge guy. What can I say?
I understand that, but it just seems so odd that they're going Dodge Darts instead of, say, Dodge Challenger.
I actually, this is going to be cool because I actually know a little bit about this. Is the fact that Erica Enders, I mean, she did great with having that Chevy Camaro. Why change a good thing? I mean, we talk about it over on NASCAR. Why do you change your make when you're doing such a great job? And like you just said, a Dodge Dart,
as opposed to a Challenger. It's just kind of odd. But that said, Enders, who is a native of Houston, Texas, and a drag racing veteran, is actually going back to Dodge. She piloted them back in 2006 and 2007. She also talked about the technical advancement of the series when she added in this report, quote, "We won the last 2 championships with carburetors. Now the goal is to win the first one with fuel injection." We talked a couple of years ago about how NASCAR went away from carburetors and brought in fuel injection. NHRA now doing the exact same thing with the brand new equipment. She's going to a brand new car, and she's going to see whether she can do that. I wish her the best of luck because, again, this is one of those deals. We want to see much more participation within the sport of racing. It has been, well, quite frankly, very male and very white. So now I'm quite pleased to see a number of women getting into it and a number of African-American and other minority men getting into it.
Yeah, and that's what we've wanted to see, that infusion coming in. I wish her the best, too, but can I just go ahead and call this one, since I want to call this one? she's not going to win the championship with the Dodge Dart GT.
Okay, so you've made your prediction for 2016.
I've made my prediction already.
All right. We might get into some predictions here. I don't know whether we're going to do that next week or later on in the show.
I just want to see her prove you wrong, that's all.
Yeah, you want to see her prove us. And you know what? It's possible. Chevrolet, meanwhile, with the help of Enders and others, notched the make's 21st straight manufacturer's title in the 2015 season. Chevrolet nailed down 29 national event victories over 3 different categories in the NHRA in 2015, garnered the most points in the series Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series national events, along with the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series regional and divisional events. Antron Brown claimed the title in Top Fuel. We mentioned the fact that Erica Enders, in her run in Pro Stock, it's easy for me to do. And meanwhile, in Funny Car, Del Worsham walked away with the 2015 title. So all of those 3 going to be looking to defend their titles come 2016. Overall, Bowtie Brand won 22 of the 24 Pro Stock events in 2015, partnering with John Force Racing in 2015. After the 2014 season, he moved away from Ford to go back to Chevrolet. Proved to be a good move for him. He garnered 4 wins among the organization's Funny Car efforts. For the 2016 season, Fox Sports 1 also is taking the television coverage over. It moves away from ESPN. The kickoff of the season going to be the Circle K Winter Nationals. That's going to be mid-February, Auto Club's Raceway out in California. And one final note when it comes to this, when it comes to coverage, if you had not heard, Tony Pedregon is not going to be running for any more titles or championships coming 2016. Instead, he's still going to be around the sport, but he's going to be doing that for Fox Sports 1. Announced near the end of the 2015 campaign, he will be one of the announcers for Fox Sports 1 as they begin coverage. The 2-time Funny Car champion going to be an analyst for the Mellow Yellow Drag Racing. That's the national series that we were just talking about. He does bring a lot of experience. We mentioned Funny Car, 2-time champion there. He also ran in Top Fuel and Top Alcohol Dragsters. Overall, he brings 43 feature wins in his career to the microphone, and this will be the very first time that he will be behind the microphone. We've seen first-time racers come in and do this and do it to, shall we say, mixed reviews. Darrell Waltrip, a lot of people feel that he is something of, I don't know, he's kind of a divisive character to begin with, but let's face it, he's been a success, and Fox Sports seems to really, really like him. Then you look at a Kyle Petty, and I don't know of a whole lot of people that really care for his particular way of covering the sport.
Comic relief.
Comic relief.
I wouldn't even call it comic relief. Heck, I mean, and that's the thing that we talk about. You know, we have Jeff Gordon in NASCAR going up to the tower. He's going to be, in there as an analyst. But having Tony up in talking about it, that's going to bring something a little bit more to the table as well. We talk about it all the time. It's so hard. It's hard for drivers to make that transition over to the analyst, but we've seen a lot of them really take to it very well, and it's really helped a lot of people to understand a lot more of the ins and outs of the sport that they're covering. So, I mean, for him to go up there, that's going to help me out because I've gotten a chance to go to quite a few, events not NHRA sanctioned, the more smaller term type ones. But, my father and my cousin, I know they've gone and seen Top Fuel. They've been able to explain a little bit to me, so that I kind of have an idea, but I'm sitting there taking notes. I guarantee you I'm going to be watching this guy, and I'm going to be taking notes because I want to learn everything I can from him, especially being the fact that he's just now coming out of the series and jumping up into the analyst part.
Yeah. All right. You kind of opened the window here, and since we got about 5 minutes left to go, I want to play with this a little bit. This is very off the cuff, so we're going to have to kind of think about this. And with that said, we're going to go each series here and kind of come up with, and I say each series, we're going to go NASCAR as a whole. So if you want to do Camping World Truck Series or Xfinity as opposed to Sprint Cup, feel free. But we're kind of going to go wild prediction time here. You've already said your NHRA prediction that Erica Enders' 2-year run stops.
Right.
I'm actually going to go out on a limb here, and I know John Force's impact on the NHRA. John Force himself, to me, this is way out on a limb because you talk about Dustin, still trying to learn Formula One. I've got a lot to learn when it comes to the NHRA. But John Force has been a constant in the NHRA for a long time. He's been a winner every year. Yeah. I feel weird going out on this, and I feel like somebody's already got the saw and they're cutting the limb right behind me, but I'm going to say John Force does not get a win in 2016.
I'm going to be the one holding that saw.
And you know what? I'll gladly take the fall because I think John Force is a great ambassador for the sport, but I think time has started to catch up to him. And that's the only reason I say that.
The best way that I could really describe John Force, for a lot of those listeners out there that are, new to drag racing, but know NASCAR, he is the equivalent of Ron Hornaday Jr. over in the Truck Series.
Yeah.
He is that guy. He's the one. He's the proven veteran, and that's what you get with John Force. I definitely would not go that far. That's really a heck of a prediction. That's a bold one, but stranger things have happened.
Let me qualify this. I said John Force himself, not John Force Racing. I think John Force Racing is, pardon the pun, going to be a force in the NHRA. I just don't think John Force himself is going to claim a win.
I don't know.
I feel like I'm way out on a limb here, and I feel like the saw's already out.
The limb is extra long. I don't think we'll need a saw. I think it's going to break right underneath your feet.
He probably will, and he will probably prove me wrong in the Winter Nationals to kick off. And you know what?
He's going to be the one. To cut that
Yeah, he'll probably have the saw out there himself. He'll hear about this, and he'll come and, I gave the invitation to all the sports directors of the Birmingham TV stations because of their falling flat on their face and not talking about all sports.
We'll get you, Steve West.
John Force knows now exactly where we are. He's going to come find me.
Hey, John, just so you know, it was not Dustin, it was Steve. I've seen that man angry. I do not want that geared in my direction.
John, I'll leave it open to you as to whether you want to come in with bold predictions on any of these because, as you've said, you're still kind of getting into racing as a whole. So if you feel uncomfortable, by all means, don't.
I can give you who I'd like to see.
Okay, go for it.
NASCAR. I'd like to see Tony Stewart go out on his ending career year with a win.
With a win.
With a championship.
With a championship. Okay.
Yes.
Is that going to be your wild prediction?
No, I don't think he'll be able to take the championship next year. He will have a couple of wins, I believe.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't really don't have a feeling of which driver will be bringing home the cup next year.
Gotcha. All right. Dustin, since he started off with NASCAR, let's go to NASCAR now.
Okay. Well, first, before we go to NASCAR, Formula One. Since you went for something that you don't really know too much about, I'll go to something that I don't really know too much about. I'll say this, Lewis Hamilton is not your champion this year. I think Nico Rosberg is going to be crowned our 2016 Formula One champion for 2016 season. So that would be my bold prediction.
Okay.
As much as that hurts.
I've gone back and forth on this as to who I would go with, whether it was the Mercedes camp or not. I'm going to step away from the Mercedes camp and say that Mercedes doesn't even claim the championship in 2016.
Ooh.
I'm calling Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel.
That's a nice
All right, that's a good one. I might look like a fool, but okay.
Here's the sub. Here's the sub on this. Watch for a major rebound from McLaren Honda. I bet you they become a player this coming year.
Yeah, that's for sure. They need to do something. We've talked about it all season long. So.
Time running out. Let's go to NASCAR real quick.
All right, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion. Wow. As much as I want Tony to do it, I don't think he's going to be able to do it the way Jeff Gordon didn't. I think I'm going to go for a long shot. I'm going to go Joey Logano.
Okay. Because my guy is Tony Stewart, you opened up the door. I'm going to say this. He mentioned 3 races that he really wants to win. Daytona 500, Coca-Cola, not the Coca-Cola 600, the Southern 500 on Labor Day at Darlington and the Brickyard. I'm laying it down right now. Not only will Tony win, it will be one of those 3 races he will win.
I like it.
I'd agree.
IndyCar.
Will Power, another championship.
Taking Will Power as champion. I'm going to go Tony Kanaan. I like him, number one, but I think that now he's in the equipment. He's had a full year in the equipment. I think he's going to do really, really well in it. So that wraps it up. Next week, you'll be in studio, Dustin.
Yes, sir. Yes, I will.
Looking forward to it. You guys have a great, safe travels down. We will talk to you next week right here on a 90-minute Fastest Hour in Radio.
See ya.